This is the gift-giving season, and one of the gifts of God is rest. That's what Jesus said. Come to me, all. I'm sorry, children can be dismissed. I booted it. So, children, you can be dismissed. Yeah. Talk about rest, and before we can know what rest is, we have to get an idea of what burden is. This is Mount Taishan in China, and Mount Taishan is the gate of heaven. We went here on one of the school trips when I was teaching in China in the early 2000s. And so we are plodding our way up this stair, huffing and puffing, and then we see this. These individuals, this is their job. They go up and down the mountain with all these goods. This is hundreds of pounds, and so it's really discouraging when you're just huffing and puffing and you see these people go whizzing by. This is what they do. This is an image of burden. Jesus talked to people who felt like this spiritually as they were trying to make their way up to the gate of heaven, carrying heavy loads. They had a lot to do as they moved up to the gate of heaven. And this is what Jesus said to them. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. The burden he refers to is spiritual, not physical. I think that makes sense to us. Jesus is thinking at the time of the influence of those who spoke for God, and this is what he had to say. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, so you must obey them and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. People weighed down with heavy burdens. These are the people Jesus addresses. He tells them to take his yoke upon them and assures them that they will find rest if they do. He said, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He could be thinking of one of two different kinds of yokes, probably two pictures that he has in mind, and both of them have something to communicate to us about the gift of rest. One of the kind of yokes Jesus is thinking of has to do with this type of image. It had to do with education in Israel at the time, in which a rabbi would pass on huge amounts of knowledge to disciples. In Israel at the time, there were 3 levels of education. The first level began at age 6 to age 10. It was called Bet Sefer, the house of the book. In Jewish culture at the time, children were taught the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. And so the task in this first level of Jewish education was for them to memorize Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They went to synagogue 5 days a week. Most concluded their formal education at this point and went home to learn the family trade. If a student was especially bright, they went on to the second level, which is Bet Talmud. Students who excelled were allowed to continue. They studied and memorized the remaining Hebrew scriptures. Now, if you were a really good student and you got through these first 2 levels, there was a third level, which is called Bet Midrash, and it was a house of study. These were for especially bright students who could memorize huge amounts of information these individuals then, who went to this level of education, what they would do, they would hook up with a rabbi from age 14 or 15 until about age 30. And in that time, they sat at the feet of the rabbi, and their job was to take the rabbi's beliefs and interpretations and memorize them. So when a disciple was one with a rabbi, it didn't really have to do with their relationship. It had to do with the fact that this disciple had learned so well at the feet of the rabbi that what the disciple said is what the rabbi would say. They said the same thing. This was called taking the yoke of the rabbi. So if you were a disciple, you took the yoke of the rabbi on yourself, which meant that you pledged yourself to learn everything that this rabbi, and it was a heavy yoke. There were huge amounts of information. The yoke of the rabbis in Jesus' day was tremendously heavy. Here's what, again, he said, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must obey them and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. In contrast, look what Jesus said. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. My yoke is easy. There is another type of yoke that Jesus probably is thinking about, and it's this kind of yoke. It's a yoke that two animals, one is the experienced animal, one the inexperienced animal. So the experienced animal and an inexperienced animal would put their necks in here. Micah, I'm going to steal you. Okay. I'm the experienced animal, and so Micah is inexperienced. So we're going to put our head through this. Now, here we go. What would make this an easy burden or hard burden? It all has to do with my character. If I am arrogant and forceful, Micah is going to have a very difficult time, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to go when he's ready or not, and this is going to be really hard for him, and if I turn this way, this is going to hurt his neck. So it's my character. But if I am humble and gentle in heart, we're going to have a good time together, because what I'm going to do, being humble and gentle at heart, I'm going to take you into consideration, and I'm going to make sure that when I walk, you're ready to walk, and that will make this experience easy rather than hard. Thanks, Micah. Rest depends on the character of the instructor. An instructor who is gentle and humble in heart is going to be someone you'll be able to walk with and experience rest with. Rest is all about the character of the instructor. It's not necessarily all the stuff you have to learn. It's the character of the one who teaches it to you. And that's what did he say? Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Rest doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It doesn't mean that you take a vacation. That's not really what life is about. It means that We learn alongside someone we can be comfortable with because he is gentle and humble in heart. Because he is gentle and humble in heart, we find rest for our souls.